Thank you for joining me today on Christine's Awesome Things. My name is Christine, and today I am going to talk to you about my favorite subject, which is gardening. As you know, when you're growing fruits or vegetables, there's two ways to do it. You can either start by seeds, or you can go to a nursery and buy the vegetable plants. Now, I used to buy the vegetable plants from the nursery because I had no idea how to start seedlings. Most people say put your seeds in a tray, put it under a window, and they'll grow. Well, that's indirect sunlight, and one thing that I've learned is that they would get leggy. So if you're planning on doing your vegetable for seeds, first thing you're going to need is a seedling tray. You're going to need a dome. I recommend a dome. You don't necessarily need it, but the dome keeps the moisture trapped in, so it would be less watering of your seedlings. Of course, if you don't put a dome on them, they'll kind of dry out, so you just got to keep making sure you water. And grow lights. Grow lights are important, and a heat mat. Heat mats give the plants the heat that they need to the roots, okay? Usually heat mats get up to 70, 75 degrees. Plants need heat. Seedlings need heat. They need heat to the roots. So, seedling tray with a dome, if you want a dome. The lamps, grow lights, excuse me, and heat mat. Key thing right there. You have those, you're doing what you need to start off. Okay, so now, if you got those, let's talk about the different seed starting soil you can use. All right, sphagnum moss. Whenever you look at seed starting soil in the store, you'll notice that it's always sphagnum moss in it or peat moss. Sphagnum moss, peat moss, cocoa coir, they all hold moisture. Okay. Sphagnum moss, it helps to condition the soil, okay? Especially if you're gardening outside, if you add sphagnum moss, it's going to help condition the soil and retain moisture. Also in potting, it's really best for potting because it's going to retain that moisture, help condition the soil. Now, sphagnum moss has a pH level of 3.0 to like 3.5, okay? So it's kind of balanced. Peat moss, it has a high acidity and it has a pH balance, I think, of like 3.7 to like 3.5 or something like that. Cocoa coir, actually, peat moss is 3.7 to 7.0. Cocoa coir is in between the two. So it has a pH balance of like 5.2 to 6 point something. But regardless of that, peat moss has a high acidic level. So when you buy seed starting soil, it usually doesn't have peat moss. It'll have sphagnum moss. Okay. One way to bring down the acidity level in your soil is to add gardening lime. Okay, that brings down the acidity level. All right, now sphagnum moss it is a plant that it's, how do I put this, it's a plant, and it like grows on the surface or in a swamp. Okay, and it retains moisture. Peat moss is sphagnum moss, but it's like it decayed and became and like sunk to the bottom of the soil and swamp, and so it has like this high level of acid in it because it then decayed and sunk into the soil or in the swamp, wherever they got it, wherever they got this particular sphagnum moss from, and then they dry it out. So once it's dried out and it becomes wet, it's good for the soil. It's like a soil, but you don't want to use peat moss by itself unless you're doing plants that can take a lot of acid, like tomatoes. You know, um, you want to kind of cut that pH level down by adding a little lime to it if you're potting, or even if it's in the garden. Okay. Now, me personally, I use cocoa coir. Okay. Cocoa coir is less expensive than sphagnum moss. Okay. But it's a little bit more expensive than peat moss. And the reason that is because it has a lower acidity level. The higher acidity level it has, the cheaper, the less expensive it is. Okay. So when you're buying seedling soil, you want to kind of check to see what type of moss is in it. I would recommend sphagnum moss, or you could do like I do and make your own. Okay. I've been making my own seed starting soil for years, and it is no fail. Okay. If you're going to make your own seedling soil, you only need 3 things. Okay. Sphagnum moss, peat moss, or cocoa coir. That's 1. Perlite and vermiculite. Those 3 right there. Sphagnum moss, peat moss, and cocoa coir retain moisture. Okay. Perlite helps to fluff the soil so it aerate. And vermiculite, it basically does the same thing as perlite, but it kind of irrigates it and makes sure that any nutrients that's in the soil doesn't get out. It kind of helps the soil a little bit. I particularly forgot exactly what it does, but I know that in all the soil mixture that you'll find in the stores, it always has perlite, vermiculite. Okay. Perlite, I know, definitely fluffs the soil, keeps it from being hard and compact, especially for if you have your plants in pots. Okay. So, key thing you want, if you want to make your own seed starting soil, instead of buying it, buy cocoa coir. It's cheaper. Perlite and vermiculite. Okay. Mix the 3. 4 parts cocoa coir, 1 part vermiculite, 1 part perlite. There you have it. Seeds do not need cow manure. They don't need any nutrients or anything like that when they first start out. They don't need that. Okay. Because they could actually burn your seeds. All right. So when you start, those are the only 3 things that you need. When they sprout, you want to leave them in a little longer. When they get their first 2 true leaves, not those little tiny ones that you see, you want them to get a little bigger. Then you want to start adding your nutrients to your soil. All right. That's all I wanted to tell you for now. And in my next video, I will show you exactly how to make your seed starting soil. My name is Christine, and thank you for watching Christine's Awesome Things.